What time is the finish today?
I actually have no idea. I think it's 5:30.
That's it. Because like the conference is until about 7:30 or 8. So only the conference is at 11.
Yeah, I think so. Jorge, can you confirm what time do we end today?
Yes. 7.
7 is the end of my talk. That's a lot of time. No, I actually need to see it for myself. What? What? Oh, you're gonna get really advanced. Okay, if it's okay with you, I'm gonna remove this sample. I'm not sure if you want the code. Do you prefer this code to be available to you? The add preferences with crazy stuff? Or, yeah? Yeah, okay. I guess. I'll try.
Can I ask something?
You can.
Not related exactly what you're doing. You know, the beginning of the day.
Yeah, 1 second. Thank you. Again, yeah.
There was something that page about converting from upgrading from 2 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
But anyone has done it. I mean, how if it's like something quite complicated already, how easy is it to upgrade from 2 to 3?
Where's Euromark?
Is it just the model that I need to change, or everything? Or?
Mostly the model. Mostly the models. Yes, which is a big chunk of your application, right? Because I would say more than 70%. But yeah, controllers are mostly the same. Helpers are mostly the same. Components are exactly the same. Behaviors are mostly the same. Views are exactly the same, etc., etc. So only like there were improvements. There were changes inside how internally stuff works and how stuff internally can be extended and made better. But we really try to maintain that cake feeling. Like it should be easy. It should be like a drag and drop. Like you download CakePHP and you start, and then suddenly you start having an application. So that is the same.
But the two code we wrote on the free, and I can do it gradually, kind of.
No. Well. You can, right? But that means how you want to do it.
Can I have like 50-50, like start?
Yeah, but you need 2 separate applications.
Separate application.
Yeah. Well, so the way I would do it, if I were going to do 50-50 kind of stuff, is select a set of features that can be isolated. For example, an API. If you have something that is normal, like a HTML and normal stuff, and you have an API, I think it could be like, okay, let me convert the API to Cake 3. And then serve different stuff from different applications. Sorry. Or if you have a lot of cake shells, which I happen to do in my application, convert the shells to Cake 3, because shells usually are more isolated. So yeah, you will need to kind of bring back stuff that you have been doing in Cake 2, transform it to Cake 3 in terms of tables and entities, and the rest is just wiring stuff together. I'm not telling you that it's an easy task to upgrade. I would choose Cake 3 for new developments, and if you're happy enough and you see that this is saving you time in the long run, then yeah, start upgrading. Unfortunately, there is a moment in every project where you cannot support backwards compatibility forever, right? Yes, it's like I don't know, operating systems. You cannot say, okay, I still work in a Mac G4 forever. You have at some point say, the processor that you have is not enough. Good. So I was going to add this to GitHub.
It's mine, yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. Do I have permissions already? Okay. So in this repository here, you have my code. It's in the advanced branch. Do you all take note of it? Yep. Okay. So the last, or the almost last example that I wanted to show with find is combining finders from other tables. So for example, let's find answers let's find answers for a specific user. So I go to the answers table, and let's add a find by user. Can you see there? It's too low in the screen, right? So same story. User equals options user, and then just return query where answers dot user ID is user. Nothing new. We already did this for questions. Yeah, I saw it. User ID. So nothing new. Let's just try it. If it works correctly, console get answers. Table find, use BJ, find by user. There you go, we have one answer by this user. So what I'm going to do now is go my questions table and create another finder called public function find by responder. Can you see that? Can you say responder or a better word for it? I want questions that were answered by a specific user. Answered by, I guess. Answered by. Find answered by. Query. Options. So return the query. No, it's contain. Yep, contain answers. Function. Actually, I need matching because I'm gonna filter. Query. So matching answers where the answer is by the user. Just pass the options. I'm going to be lazy. Do you understand what it's doing? This is doing, sorry? Okay. So I'm going to do the same here. Reload. Get my questions table. And then find answered by user 1. Oops. Query builder for extension did not return a query. I keep doing that. There you go. And we have only one answer that was, or only one question that was answered by user 1. So what I wanted to show here is that you don't need to duplicate finders that you have done in other tables if you want to filter. If you just need to filter by some conditions and the finder happens to exist somewhere else, just use the finder inside the matching. I don't see awe in the room, and I was expecting awe because that feature was stupidly hard. Just kidding. Okay, do you have any questions, commentaries, opinions about this? Nope. Okay. So the last example with find. This will require me to change something. I'm gonna go to Bootstrap CLI. Gonna copy example from the book because I'm lazy. ORM. I'm going to activate the query logger. And in app.php, I'm going to activate log as well. It's log queries, right? Or just log? Can I remember. Is log. Okay, so I'm going to activate the queries log just to show this feature. Oops. There is a quote identifiers, that's my fault. Great, so I have questions answered by that I should have here my query log, which is pretty neat. If you want feedback on what you're doing, I'm just gonna go slow so you see what needs to be done for activating query logging, at least on the console. So you go to app.php and to your data source, the one that you are using, in my case default. I use log true. And in my Bootstrap CLI, I added a log config called queries, listening to only the queries log scope and outputting anything to standard error. Make sense? So the result of that is that I will see each time I do a query, I will see a debug of everything that happened. I think we had a custom finder called with something, with no, I want something that, this one for example, with text. With text. Just call it again. So you can see that there were actually two queries. One for getting the questions, and two for getting the tags. And this is where the magic happens. This is how tags are filtered so they can be included in the results of this. I think that's pretty normal, right? From Cake 2. You're used to that. So the feature I want to show you now is for answering this question. I'm not sure if you ever had this problem. Probably not, but once you get a big database, and I mean big, doing this will be painfully slow. The problem is this. Do you see any problem with that? It can be huge. And in some databases, there is a limit. So you can only add up to X amount of stuff there. And also saturates the network. If you add a lot of text and you have a lot of traffic, that's a lot of text coming back and forth for filtering. But the biggest problem actually is if you have a huge table, for example, you're doing batch processing. So you want to process all questions. Imagine that you're running Stack Overflow. So imagine you want to run all questions with all tags. Do you imagine how this will look like? Not good. You got it. So what do you suggest? So it still retrieves all my questions or the tags for that question without having to pass each one of the IDs. A subquery, exactly.
But couldn't you still hit the same limit?
Let's see. So I'm going to tell or I'm just trying to find something that is more. Let's find it with answers. Answers is going to be better. Let me just find. So it's more clear, the example. Table, contain, table find. Everything. Contain answers. That's it. So yeah, for each one it has the answers, and you can see that for each one you got the answers here, right? With this. Okay? So what I'm going to do is tell CakePHP, it has many, that the strategy for fetching the answers should be a subquery. You can use constants if you're into that. Just going to be lazy for now and just write subquery there. So I'm going to reload, do exactly the same. I need my table. Do exactly the same. I still get the same result, but you can see that this changed. That's amazing to me. You have to trade off. If you have a bad database version like MySQL 5.5, you probably don't want to do that. If you have a good version like 5.6, definitely you want to do that. If you use Postgres, you definitely want to do that. It actually makes it better, makes it faster in the PHP side, because it doesn't have to traverse twice all the records, build an array, match each of the rows, etc., etc. It just happens for free. Which?
I don't think that one would hit the limit at all in the end.
No, the limit is put not in the class itself, but in the amount of params you can pass as distinct values, or the max size of the query. If it exceeds more than, I don't know, 50,000 characters, I don't know, or it's 4K or 60K, I don't know what is the actual limit, but you can reach it. For example, if you use UUIDs, you can very easily reach that limit. Any other question about this feature?
What other strategies can you use on that subquery?
What other what?
Strategy can you define?
You can use select and subquery. And there's another one, where it's join, which is the default, and it will select it depending on the type. There is a plain select, actually. If you want to always use a separate select for that, it will do that. And subquery, it will do the other. If I'm not mistaken, don't believe in that. I'm just going to try just for curiosity. I don't remember. I'm just going to use the strategy. Select. Don't believe me. I actually don't remember. Here, and see if it works. It actually does. That's pretty cool. That's amazing.
There is row concat in MySQL.
Yes.
Can this strategy?
A row contact strategy. Nope. You cannot do that. Yeah, I know what you mean. But no, you can use the 3 strategies that are there. Or you can use, of course, query expressions and do the functions. Actually, I'm going to go jump and use functions now, so you can know how to construct complex stuff like row concat, for example, or a join from a subquery, or a from a subquery. So you can do that. But I'm not too fan of a group concat because it's impossible to read. Personally, I have done it. I'm guilty about it. But when you pass it on to another developer, they just like, what did you do there? Then it's easier to not do it. You have an example for that, actually? No? Okay. I used it once. What?
In the query, you can get one twice. Is it up to me as the developer to make the array that unique, or why it doesn't?
Where did I get twice?
Scroll up to the query again.
Yeah.
Between comma 1.
I get 1 here.
No. You see the SQL itself?
Yes.
It's saying
Oh yeah, you cannot limit it. Like it's easier to just pass everything to MySQL than to in PHP call array unique. MySQL, the implementation will do the unique for you, and it's faster because it's implemented in C. So no reason to waste that time in PHP. That was awesome. Subqueries and functions. Now that I'm teaching it for the first time, I realize that this is huge. So many features. Public function, let's try to ask a difficult question to the data. Find all questions that, let's see. Okay, let's use another version of find tagged, but that doesn't return the tags and doesn't have the possibly duplicate problem. Okay? So I'm going to create function find tagged only. So I'm going to create this tags, there's an association object. I'm going to find in it. So find tags that the name is options tag. And okay, that's a query. That's tags filter. And I'm going to return query where. So I want questions that were tagged with that. So I'm gonna need here contain questions tags, or is that questions? Question tags. No, I'm asking the wrong question because it's easier the other way. I'm actually going to take this function because as it's easier from this side, I want the other side. Text. Yeah. Let's open the text table. Text table. There you go. Public function, find tag only. I'm going to call it find Boolean questions, like in Boolean questions. So all the tags that are in Boolean questions. So I'm going to do this questions find. Actually, you can find Boolean questions, and I'm just going to select just going to select the ID. So I want all tags containing or matching questions tags where questions tags question tags dot question ID is in the tags filter, which is actually questions filter. Okay, so I'm going to use a subquery inside a function. Is that too complicated? Okay. So I'm going to get my table, tags, and I'm going to find all tags. This table. Find. It's called in Boolean questions. SQL. The problem is bad method call, select on a non-object, and that's very true because I didn't call find. And again, tag is not associated with question tags, and that's very true because I need to edit. Has many questions tags. Again. There you go. So I have here where the question ID is inside this stuff. So I created a subselect quite easily. Let me just review how I did it. You just create a find that returns a query. Let me just do it better. And the query, or the find that returns a query, can be used as a parameter of basically anything inside the query constructor. So you can use a subquery as a select field. You can use a subquery in a where condition. You can use a subquery in a join, as a like join a query. You can use a subquery as a from. You can use a subquery as a group by. You can use a subquery as an order clause, etc., etc. So, have anyone tried to do subqueries in Cake2? How do you do it?
The way it's done in the book, where you get the DB, get the build the SQL, and then pass it as a condition.
Yeah. Okay. That's a long way of doing it, which is the one that's in the book. There's another way, which is a plugin from CakeDC called the search plugin. You attach the searchable behavior to the model, and then use get SQL, or get query, cannot remember. And you pass the name of the finder, and it will return the SQL. And then you have to do a lot of stuff to make it work as a subquery. But yeah, now everything can be made a subquery, including conditions. So let us just see the result of this. Yips. There's a subquery that returns more than one row. This is actually what I want. Oh yeah, of course. There you go. Now I have all the tags repeated by question tag where they're tagged to the where the association exists with the with the Boolean question. So you can see actually that it's question 2 here, and question 3 here, and question 3 here again, even though they're not Boolean questions, is because of this. It will create duplicates. Even though the tags are very legitimately associated with the Boolean question, it will duplicate because of not having unique conditions. So you can solve that by adding a distinct. Okay, distinct on tags with ID. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Any questions about subqueries? No. There's actually a cool feature about subqueries. I'm going to show it to you now. Let's find, let me see, the count of, let me just change this question to 1. Let's find the count of questions by type, which is a very simple query. Public function find count by type. Query options array. So it's just return query. We select 2 fields. The first field is the option type. It's a question type. Question type ID. And the second field is the count. So let's call it total. And we use query count star. Actually, it's not just count, it's function count. So select those 2 rows and group by question type ID. There you go. So let me get questions. Let's count by type. There you go. We have these 2 here, which is the expected, right? Another question. How many of you have tried in the past in Cake 2 to get like a virtual column, like a count or a sum of something? You had to go like array, then 0, 0, and then the column name. Now it's gone. Yeah. So this is cool. So one cool thing about subqueries is that you can ask for the count of complex stuff. What is the count of this query? Or how many results, if I say count of the results that this query returns, what should it return? 2. That's correct.
Behaviors, and to take it, can you calculate behavior for the subquery or sub?
You can do whatever you want in the ORM. You can add You can have a behavior, and yes, you can inject subqueries in conditions and whatever. Yeah, of course. So yeah, this is true, but what I want you to show you is the query that it generates. It generates a count from, where is it? From here. Basically grabs the query inside another query just to do the count. So if you're having, like, for example, a dashboard where you have totals and counts and sums and all that stuff, and you need to paginate that result, that was not possible in Cake 2. It was not possible because the count of something complex like that does not return the same. It will do like override all the columns and replace it with count. Now it does return the actual count for the pagination. Okay? Yes, I can, but it's I think it's time. So the advanced workshop started with some assignments. I will not break that tradition in my advanced workshop. I will put an assignment to you now. So I guess everyone has installed PHP or have access to the Azure account. Is that true? So I'm going to commit the code that I have now. I want you to download it. I'm going to put an assignment to you.
Does anyone else need a token for an Azure subscription if you want to give it a shot?
The dummy schema is in that repo. It's in the README. There's a link at the bottom. And you will have exactly the same data as they have. So the assignment is, I want you to build a custom finder that will return the count or the amount of answers in questions per organization. And I'll give you 10 minutes for that. Anyone need help with the assignment? Such focus.